Okay, so I'm going to import you guys different levels that I tried the ZBrush with. And again, these are what I'm importing. I did nothing. All I did was just run the algorithm itself. Okay, so I wanted you guys just to see the simple thing. So this is at 45K, right? And I'm not using any guides or anything like that. So I can hop back to the original model so you guys can see that again. You can see what we had, right? So I'm going to bring in something even lower because I wanted to keep pushing this ZBrush and see what we could do with it. So this is at around 17,000 polygons. So I'll turn that on so you guys can see that flow. So, and the thing that you guys got to understand about the ZBrush was really big about this, and why this piece was a good challenge for me during testing was all the scales. So the ZBrush is really paying attention to your sculpt. It's really looking at what your sculpt's doing, okay? So I wanted to see how well I could keep some of that, but on the same token, I'm going to show you guys some tricks. Sometimes that could be a negative thing for you because you have so much noise on your sculpt, it might be better to smooth things out, and you might even get better geometry. I'll show you guys that as we keep going. So then I said, you know what, let's keep going lower. So there's 10,000. So for me, that was like, okay, that was a pretty good test. I'm pretty happy with where we did and where we're at with that. So I took something else from David Richardson. So we got this jacket here, right, with some nice wrinkles, right? And we all want to create cloth like this and have some nice cloth, and now I want to make it lower res, whether it be in the gaming, when I go to the gaming system, go to my film, render out in RenderMan or V-Ray or whatever you're going to render in Mental Ray, okay? So I took this into the ZBrush and said, well, let's see what we can do with this. So let's import these jackets that I did here. So here's our jacket. So here it is at 20,000, okay? So nice and clean. All right, got the nice wrinkles still staying here, got some nice wrinkles staying through here, okay? So then I wanted to see how low I could keep going, so here's 5,000. So you can see we're still maintaining the wrinkles over here, and you can see the geometry trying to follow the actual wrinkles that he sculpts.
And I used one of their new features, which I hadn't actually used before, called see-through. So now that I've got my composition, I can use see-through, which makes your entire interface go clear. And initially, I didn't know what this was for. I was like, this seems really weird. Why would I ever want to have like a clear interface? Unless you really love your background, like there's no real, I couldn't understand it. But then all of a sudden I had this, and I wanted to match my composition that I had. And I didn't have to go in and load an image and load an image plane and do all that stuff. So I could go here, and since each one of these characters is a different subtool, while this is here, I can go ahead and just start adjusting my image. I can get and match what I had painted over. Which is pretty cool, because before I would have to go in and load an image, and you have to load an image plane, you have to do all that kind of stuff, which is a little bit of a pain. But now with see-through, it's really, really easy. So I would change my proportions here to get my canvas size. So we'll just change the width to like 1,000. Everything square, like 700, just for demonstration's sake. Because I want it to be a little cropped off. And then I'm going to go under document over here. This is how I always save my views. Because sometimes if you're trying to get a certain composition, it's just like having a camera set up in real life or a camera set up in Maya, where you want to go back and look through that camera and see what everything looked like. Sometimes you're going to be adjusting things in different areas. So what I do, and right now there's not really, by default there's not a perfect setting for that, unless you go under here. So under my Z-applet properties, I can set up custom views. So I'm going to say, like, this is my perfect view that I want. Right? We'll maybe shift these guys over. And I'm going to hit this custom 1 button. Now, as soon as I rotate, normally I would have lost that angle. But I've hit custom 1 again, it's going to pop back to that. I also use this if I'm trying to, like, decide between a few compositions. So maybe the other composition is a shot where you see it from this angle. So I'll set this up and say, do I like this one more, or do I like this one more?
The energy here on the floor the first day has been electric thus far. How do you feel about being here? It's your first time with us on the booth. Describe that experience and how you're feeling as an artist and coming from that sort of humble beginning as a student, and now you're...
Yeah, it's a little surreal, I guess. I mean, for SIGGRAPH in general, I thought the floor might be a little dead. It's early in the morning. It's everybody's getting here, but it was packed. The whole booth was packed, so it was nice to see that. And to be able to talk about all the stuff you're doing only a few years out of school is great. Right. You get you don't expect that. So.
On another note, you are working currently at Marvel.
Yes.
And you've had the luxury and the pleasure and the honor to work on some titles as Iron Man, Iron Man 2, and now Iron Man 3 has landed on the resume.
Yes.
Can we talk about that at all?
Sure.
And how do you feel about the experience of knowing that there's people all over the world waiting to see your work, and the realization that when you walk past a billboard, let's say, you say, wow, I did that.
It's a little crazy. We went to Comic-Con last week, and seeing all the Iron Man 3 stuff and all the statues and sculpts and sculptures and people in costumes, and knowing that a lot of that comes from your work is kind of crazy. I guess the advantage is I have the low back door, nobody knows who I am, so I can go in and geek out and still be cool and not get mobbed by anybody. So I love that, but it's really cool to be able to see your work on screen, and knowing that especially with Iron Man, I did the title character, which is cool, right?
So I'm gonna go through. We're actually gonna go through the chair. Today I'm gonna try actually get through the whole chair for you guys. Yesterday I kind of ran over, but I'm gonna go through a bunch of the features of this, and we'll see how it goes. So this is the chair inside of ZBrush. This is just in its normal form, which is the matte cap gray kind of applied to it. This has poly paint information applied to it. If you ever want to turn off all your poly paint information inside of ZBrush, just come over to this paintbrush icon over here, hold shift and click, and it'll turn off all of it across all your subtools. So if you want to switch for your poly paint and your just normal kind of matte cap gray or whatever matte cap you have loaded, we do really quick. So you just kind of see both of your models with poly painting and no poly painting, and a clickable button. So pretty cool stuff there. So to start this off, for a chair, I'm going to start actually with a leg of the chair and then duplicate that around and then start making the framing, and then we're going to have all the details and kind of the insert mesh weaving for the actual patterns and the sculpture on the object. So to start off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come grab a polysphere. So once again, starting stuff from spheres. I'm going to take this, I'm going to subdivide it down to its lowest subdivision level, and I'm going to come over here to the tab, go to geometry. Mouse here working where I want to go. I'm just going to do a reconstruct subdivision. So the polysphere, when it was created, it was actually created from a square. So it's just a square and it's been subdivided over top of each other, turns into a sphere. So you can actually do the inverse process inside of ZBrush and get a nice kind of square object in there. So if you ever want a square inside ZBrush, just go ahead and grab a polysphere and reconstruct it, and you get a nice square. Now with this, I'm going to bring in some reference for the actual chair leg. So the chair leg style is like a Queen Anne style chair, and it's a cabriolet leg. So I'm going to come up here top to texture, and I'm going to do an import, and I'm going to load this texture map in. So I already preloaded this, so I'm not going to go through that process, so I'm just going to click on this, and you see that's the map I have loaded. So it's basically a mask map.
So we're here live again on the booth at the Pixologic booth, SIGGRAPH 2013, with my friend and yours, Joseph Drush here.
Nowadays, ZBrush has opened the door for a lot of creative people to shine. And so just the power of the tool, it's getting harder out there for an artist because there's just so much good stuff,
We talked about the time frames being crunched down as well. There's a lot less time.
Yeah, they're getting shorter and shorter too, so you definitely have to be fast and you have to give quality work on everything you do. Awesome. No cutting corners.
So that being said, let's do some quick introductions. My name is Seth Thompson, and I'm the Environment Set Supervisor on our pre-rendered cinematics team. I won't be giving a demo during this portion, but after this, I will be giving an hour-long live sculpting demo, so if you guys want to stick around for that, I got some cool stuff to show you. All right, before we get started, let's give a round of applause for Kenson. Thank you.
He's like a part Zerg, part Beast, and they didn't exactly want this type of texture. They wanted a leathery type of texture, so let me bring that and change the texture, the material, so you guys can see it better. So yeah, so this was what the result was. So ZBrush was able to allow us to do a lot of nice surface detailing on this guy.
Let's give a round of applause for Young Him.
Yeah.
The concept artist work on this concept. It's more refined than in-game asset. Based on this, we create a base mesh, and we sculpt it in ZBrush. When I work on this, I started from G-sphere, and after sculpting, I retopoled in ZBrush. So I was able to save a lot of time doing all process in ZBrush.
So, my name is Alvaro. I've been an investor for about 6 years. This is an inspiration or a concept that I got. The final concept is pretty different, but we use this as like kind of like a flavor concept. Here's another paint over, and he's just indicating what the surface wants it to look like.
Seth Thompson from Blizzard Entertainment. Come on, round of applause. In a circular motion.
Thank you. A full sculpting demo for the entire hour, so I'm going to try and speed through this thing and show you guys some new features from panel loops and see-through mode, as well as how to do some extrusions on assets, everything within ZBrush. So basically what you're seeing here, this is a recent personal piece that I completed. This is called Unmystified. It's a tribute piece to the video game Uncharted 2. So I loved that video game. It was just amazing. Character work was great, but since I love environments, the environment work totally blew me away, and I wanted to do kind of my own little inspired piece based off that universe. So this is what I got. And also too, while I was working on this, it was also in development for the World of Warcraft, Mists of Pandaria cinematic. So if you guys have seen that, it was very heavily influenced with Chinese architecture. So you see a lot of like the Chinese dragons and different things up here in the background. Just this guy selected, delete hidden. And let's go ahead and give him a panel loop. Obviously too thin here. I can kind of remember that it should be around 3. For this guy, I'm actually going to adjust the double profile a bit. Now we got it more rounded.
For I am the queen of the lathe.
So I use ZBrush for concept design, which means we have a really fast pipeline. 2 days, 1 day to model, 1 day to render and paint, and then it has to be off to the client. So in a very short amount of time, I have to have a concept ready to go that looks photoreal and is impressive to the client. So in using ZBrush and additional rendering programs, I can get really, really realistic concepts very, very quickly. I built myself a library of assets that I can pull from regularly to help me assemble these concepts very, very quickly. So I will use this, match it, with photograph and, post work in Photoshop on top of that. But sculpting in 3D is my primary means of getting where I'm going. This is a piece I just released for the DirecTV commercial. It's a troll daddy that walks around with his iPad. So here's an example. This is a prime example of what I do. I modeled this asset and then painted over and gave the design to the company. And then they took my design and this is the final product. So what companies get by using 3D for design is not only do they get a professional looking design, but they also get an asset that they can use to take to the next level with their method. So we've noticed that 3D for design works really well in a pipeline fashion. And the pipeline's getting faster and faster, which I'm going to demonstrate here in a little bit. This is another piece for the Defiance Hellbug commercial. So this is another example of using 3D to paint over, and the client also gets a model as well. And I also use 3D for fan art as well. I like to do it in my spare time for fun. So this is Crumb from Aw Real Monsters. And of course I also like to do Kang and Kodos from The Simpsons. So using ZBrush is just absolutely superior. So I'm really, really excited to be here and to be a part of that.
So right now you've been working at the Aaron Sims company, doing some concept art. And describe some of the process there. Like, what gets you jazzed about that since you've been there for how long have you been there?
Well, I've been there for 3 years, including not including my internship, which lasted a year. So about 4 years total that I spent there. And for me, I get excited by the process. A new project comes in, we get excited by it, and then the brainstorming happens, and we figure out how do we solve these problems of design and creatures and all this stuff. So the process is the most fascinating part for me.
How did you get started using ZBrush?
Well, it's funny. I remember messing around with ZBrush way back at ZBrush 2.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so even back then, I was looking for digital sculpting programs because I figured something's got to be out there at some point. Like we're in the new millennium. Something's got to be out there for that. And I came across ZBrush and I started messing around with it. And I was like, this thing is brilliant. And I've stuck with ZBrush all the way through.
Famous last words.
It takes a long time to really get good, and I would say any inspiring artists out there, keep working, keep studying, It takes a long time to be a master, and if you surround yourself with people better than you, they're going to bring you up to their levels.